As some of you may know, hi, I'm Agutera, and I make music and art. While I am an amateur at both, I did feel super inspired recently to make a little challenge for myself. In just 2 hours, I'm going to make a song and then design a character based on it. For an added layer of challenge, I asked some friends to send me 3 emojis to use as my theme. This time, I'll be using these 3: the X, a person wearing a mask, and a little mouse. I'm hoping to do this again, so if you have emoji suggestions, please comment them below. Now, let's start with the song. So I use FL Studio for making music. I'm still super new to making music. I've only been doing it for about 4 years. And I've released a few albums just on my Bandcamp and here on YouTube, and I'm still learning the ropes. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I have any tips or tricks for you guys. I just wanted to kind of walk you through the process of what making music looks like for me. And also the added challenge of having only an hour to make something that I think sounds cool. Here I am, kind of just wanting to start with an interesting bass, get a good interesting bass line going. This is also kind of where I wanted to start picking out like an interesting progression. This is gonna be kind of where I'm building off the whole entire rest of the song. So this is the part where I admit that I actually really suck at doing drum patterns. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like it does not come intuitively for me to understand like which parts go where and what actually sounds cool. I feel like I tend to have a pretty different perspective on what sounds interesting or cool because I usually tend to like things that sound kind of weird or sound kind of off. Whether that's on purpose or not. And so usually if I'm showing off something that looks or sounds a little bit weirder than usual, that's usually the first feedback I get is fix it. The instruments that are available in MATLAB I think are super interesting, super cool, so I like to use them a lot since they usually tend to have that kind of weird, maybe even lo-fi sound that I tend to really like, even if I'm not doing like lo-fi music. Speaking of lo-fi music though, I do have an entire game soundtrack that I made that is all lo-fi beats, so if you're interested in lo-fi music, definitely go check that out. So you might notice that I'm basically picking the first instrument that I lay my hands on as the final instrument to play around with, and that's to fight the time limit here. I know I usually spend the last 30 minutes nitpicking, and we actually have a huge dilemma with the lead instrument at the end. So just going right in and picking one of the first basses that I hear and one of the first pads that I hear, I feel like it really helped set the tone for the song, but also really helped me out with that time limit. So this is pretty cool. This is me messing around with an instrument that I found in Massive that I thought sounded cool but could be even better for the purposes that I want to use it for, in ways that are maybe not noticeable, but I feel like I'm doing something, so that's what matters, right? Hopefully what I'm doing here is making the instrument sound a little bit more unique. I want it to kind of take front and center of this song instead of just being a supporting role. Okay, so just moving along here, I feel like it's sounding pretty cool so far. I'm definitely getting more of like the vibe that I'm looking for, something kind of like industrial, maybe a little ambient, but definitely more of like a really interesting beat in there. I'm loving having a really deep bass. I feel like that's really grounding most of the song. Here, I decided that I wanted to actually mess around in Audacity a little bit and do a sort of like reverse intro for the song. I felt like I usually tend to speed into my songs, so I thought it'd be interesting to have a bit of a slower introduction to this, and doing a reverse reverb effect in Audacity is obviously one of my go-tos. So I'm having a lot of fun playing around with that, and then you'll kind of get to hear that in the final result. I wanted to have a weird sounding lead instrument that was going to carry like the melodies of the song. Melodies I feel like are kind of difficult for me to write. I struggle with getting over interested in things, like wanting to add too much variation or just going above and beyond like really crazy shit that ends up not even sounding that good. Sometimes I forget just how good repeating the same note over and over can kind of sound if you have an interesting enough rhythm going. So I'm going to be experimenting a lot with that lead later. I spent so long trying to make this instrument work for me, and I should have just moved on. This is at 700% speed, and I'm not moving on yet. Let's just move on. We don't have to watch this. These last couple moments here, I am freaking out. I have about 10 minutes left, I think, and I am not at all happy with the lead instrument. There's just something about it that I felt like is not really giving the right vibe for this song. On one hand, I do think that doing the more synthy leads are obviously more my style, but I kind of wanted to have something a little quirky and weird just because our main character is supposed to be a little mouse girl. More on that later. And so I've wanted it to sound a little more mousy, maybe a little mischievous. So I'm basically panicking with these last couple minutes here, just trying to pick an instrument that I think sounds good. Sometimes I'll pick one, I'll mess around with some of it. I'll even be adding effects to it, trying to make it sound good, listening to it for like a minute and then being like, no, this isn't it. We need to scrap all of this. We need to keep going. Just like trying to find the right instrument is really scary. But I think at the end I had picked something that was perfect for the mousy, mischievous vibe that I was going for. We are officially out of time. I spent an hour and a minute on this project, but I do need to admit that I did spend a little extra time after the time was up just to polish up some of the rough edges so that the final product was better to listen to. That includes like mixing and mastering, which don't even ask me to explain. Okay, I don't know how to explain it. Now onto the character. Spoiler warning here, I really struggled with this for some reason. Well, I kind of like how the character turns out later. I think I really could have benefited from doing more sketching and just finding better ways to take inspiration from the song and the emojis. Anyway, since we're working with the mouse emoji here, I decided to make her a little anthro mouse. The sound of the music and the mask emoji both have this like industrial medical vibe to me, so I'm basing her off of the idea of a receptionist. Maybe the place that she works at is sort of like run down, like at the bottom level of one of those sci-fi cities, so maybe they don't see a lot of patients. But yeah, she's working at like a clinical health office. When it comes to the X emoji, I wanted to incorporate that as like her main style motif. In hindsight, it feels a little extra, but I also think it could kind of fit with the personality that I'm building for her. Like maybe in this sci-fi world, this X shape is seen as a symbol that like wards off sickness, or like as a protection sigil or something. She also has an eye patch, so maybe she's more of like a ruffian who gets into fights, or maybe she has to deal with like patient outbursts, which end up tearing up her outfit or something. So then she tries to mend her clothes with this X shape, so maybe they stay together longer. I gave her two tails as a stylistic choice to try and balance the piece a little better, but also to try and draw parallels from the X shape to mimic DNA. Since she's working at a medical office, I thought this would be a neat shape to incorporate, but I didn't want to go overboard since it's not one of the main motifs. When it came to the colors, I did not have a very strong idea of what it would look like. I honestly didn't have a ton of time left to color since I had spent so much time messing around with the sketching and line art, so I just wanted to follow my gut. And since I was going for more of like a sci-fi theme, I wanted to incorporate dark colors with bright accents. To get some inspiration, I actually color picked from the Discord message background for her main fur color, and I actually kind of liked it. So I built the rest from there. I definitely wanted to have pink as the secondary color, and so from there I also chose like a light blue to complement that. She also has a lot of like white and gray in her design, and those neutral colors, I think they really helped to kind of balance out the palette. I also ended up adding pinstripes to her vest and her pants to give her more of like a professional corporate vibe since she is a receptionist, but in the end I still think we have enough of that like weird kind of fantasy sci-fi elements from the X's on her outfit to really draw together like the fact that she is not a normal receptionist. She's also a mouse, so there's that. In the last 5 or so minutes, I quickly colored the line art, and then I added some gold accents on her zipper and sleeve buttons, and then I called it done! Enjoyed this challenge. It was a little scary, but I think I was able to come up with something honestly pretty cool, and genuinely can't believe like how finished the artwork and the music sound, considering I only had an hour for each of those. I'm really proud that I was just able to like whip something up really quick, even if they're not like professional level. I feel like they still turned out really cool. Not to mention, this is basically already the process that I use for making art for my music. I always start with the song and then I build the character from there. The entirety of my database album that released last year, every single song has a character design that I made for it. Some of them have never even seen the light of the internet. So if you're interested, I can do a breakdown video on those characters. But if you want to see me do this challenge again, next time I might not do a time limit, just so I can have a little more time to sketch out a character and actually feel like I have something good going with that. If you do have suggestions for the next video, please feel free to leave them down below. I read every single comment, and I just want to thank everyone who interacts with my DIY stuff. So thank you so much, and I really enjoyed this. Hopefully I will have the courage to make more videos like this in the future as well. So thank you so much. Hopefully I will see you next time. Okay, bye!